Hello friends, welcome back to VOWIAS. Welcome to the mains test series discussion, and today we are going to start the mains test 6 of Vision IAS, and this is part 1 where we will deal with question number 1 to 5. So daily we will be discussing 5 questions so that it will be easy for you to revise the mains part along with your preparation parallelly. So let us look at the first question. And guys, just a small thing. So if you like our initiative, do like the video, share the video with your friends, and even do subscribe to our channel. If you have any queries, or any suggestions, do leave your thoughts in the comments. We'll get back to you. Now let's look at the first question, and the first question is on Montreal Protocol. So Montreal Protocol, if you see, this is a protocol which is to deal with the ozone depletion substances, mainly the CFCs, HCFCs and all. It was signed in the year 1987, but it came into force in 1989. And this is one of the most successful treaty under UN, you can say. In 2009, it became first UN treaty to achieve universal ratification. So this is basically to regulate the ozone depletion substances, because these substances like CFCs, HCFCs, they are affecting the ozone layer a lot. The ozone layer is getting depleted because of these substances. That is the thing. So the atmospheric level of key ozone depleting substances are going down and should return to the pre-1980 level by middle of this century. And also recently we have seen in the news that the ozone layer which got depleted is recovering well. Right. Generally the ozone layer will be in the stratosphere, as we all know. So the developing countries had by mid 2010 permanently phased out over 270,000 tons of the ozone depletion substances, which is used to produce various products, and have eliminated all their production of CFCs. It has achieved the compliance rate of over 98%. Both the developed and developing have met their phase out targets well ahead of the schedule as well. In 2010, the phase out milestone, if you see, by Jan 1st of 2010, the parties phased out consumption and production of the chlorofluorocarbons, halogens, carbon tetrachloride and other hydrogenated ozone depletion substances. These are the various achievements. So just remember at least 2-3 of them. So for example, developing countries by mid 2010 phased out over 270,000 tons of ozone depletion substances. This you can remember easily. The compliance rate of over 98%. This you can remember. And first UN treaty to achieve universal acceptance. Like these 2-3 points you can remember easily and remember it, so that whenever you're writing an answer on maybe the UN treaties, or maybe you on the climate change or anything, you can use this as an example. You can use this and quote this as an example, where if there is collective will, then we can achieve these things. So only what is missing, especially in these areas, is the collective will. It's not about the finance, it's not about anything else, it's about the collective will, because the priorities of the countries are different. When the priorities are different, then the way the countries act is also different. Now, what are the reasons behind the success of this Montreal Protocol? First is genuine exchange of views among credible people. Second, the precautionary principle and a common but differentiated responsibility. It took root in this Montreal Protocol when the developing countries got time to phase out this ODS. Because historically, if we see in general, the developed countries, they were responsible. The developed countries are responsible for the damage that happened, be it the ozone or be it the climate change. The developed countries have contributed a lot for these things. So even during phasing out, the developed countries have to take responsibility more compared to that of the developing countries. So the developing countries generally are given more time, because they also have the energy needs, they also need energy for their growth and all. But since the developed countries already have achieved certain development, so they have to take more responsibility, be it in terms of funds or be it for the phasing out, right? And the flexibility is there in this protocol. It could be amended to include stricter controls, that is more ODS were added to control list and so on. The trade provisions, limited supply of the CFCs and others to their non-signatories, which force them to ratify the protocol. Clear articulation of the chemicals and sectors. Expert and independent technology and economic assessment panel helped signatories to reach timely decisions. Compliance procedure was also clearly defined, and it prioritized helping wayward countries back into the compliance. if necessary resources from multilateral funds are available for short-term projects. So these are the various things. Okay, so this actually can set as an example for the climate change, how to proceed, how to take things forward. So all these things, it can be, this Montreal Protocol can set as an example and can guide the policy makers, especially when they are dealing with this climate change. Now let's look at the next question. The next question is on the urban heat islands. So this urban heat islands, in recent times it was in the news. Even the question came in the mains. So urban heat islands basically means urbanized areas experiencing higher temperatures than outlying areas, structures like buildings, roads, and they absorb and re-emit sun's heat more than the natural landscape like forest and water bodies. It increases demand for energy, leads to increase in the greenhouse gas emissions. It also leads to discomfort to human health and affect the flora and fauna existing in that region. So basically, if you see, it is nothing but, let's say this is the entire area. Here you can see, just a minute, I'll change the color of the pen. Yeah. So this is the entire area. So this is the natural landscape. This is the natural landscape, and this is the urban area. So here if you see clearly, the temperature or the incoming radiation is same even in this area and in this urban area. But what is happening is the outgoing radiation is much higher here, and so in simple words what you can say is the heat absorbed in this area is much more compared to that of this area. That means the reflected radiation is higher here in the natural landscape, but in the urban areas what is happening is lot of heat is getting entrapped. Because the buildings absorb heat, the concrete floor absorb heat, everything is absorbing heat. So the amount of heat reflected is less and amount of heat absorbed is more. So because of this, what is happening is that the temperature is high in this area compared to that of the natural area. The urban heat islands occur when cities replace natural land cover with the dense concentrations of pavements, buildings and other surfaces that absorb and retain heat. This effect increases energy cost. For example, when there is more temperature, the air conditioning will be used. So naturally the energy which is needed will increase, the pollution levels will increase, and also the heat related illness for the people also will increase. So that is the thing. So what are the major factors responsible for this urban heat island? Why we are facing this and why we are experiencing this? We have to know that. So the first important thing is that the source of anthropogenic heat, cooling and heated buildings, the manufacturing, transportation, lighting. So heat from these warm urban atmosphere by conduction, convection, radiation. So in simple words, so what this statement is saying is that the urban development that we are seeing, be it the buildings construction, be it the manufacturing industries, they are releasing a lot of heat. That is the first major reason. They are releasing a lot of heat and they are absorbing also a lot of heat. And also because of these constructions, we are removing a lot of trees. We are cutting a lot of trees. So because of these things, the temperature in the urban areas is increasing. So the lack of green cover is one thing. Next, paved over surface. That means the concretization that we generally talk about. What is concretization? Be it the roads or be it the pavements, everything is concretized. We don't see sand, we don't see mud, we don't see trees. The roads, parking lots, all of them absorb the heat. They absorb the heat, they will not release the heat. That is the main thing. That is the reason the temperature will be higher. The urban geometry, the heights and spacing of buildings affects the amount of radiation received and emitted by urban infrastructure. High-rise buildings, they trap the outgoing radiation. And also they will absorb a lot of heat. CO2 and greenhouse gases act like blanket absorbing the incoming radiation and does not allow the radiation to escape, that does not allow the heat to escape the atmosphere, thus increasing the temperature. The scant natural vegetation in urban areas reduces natural cooling effect from shade and evapotranspiration. These are also the things. So the main causes are the increase in construction activities, the high buildings, the air conditionings, the urban architecture, the transportation, the lack of this mass transportation systems and vehicular pollutions, and also the CO2 and greenhouse gases, and the last is lack of green cover. So these are the various reasons. Now, what are the measures that has to be taken to counter these urban heat islands? What are the measures? So first is natural ventilation. Natural ventilation, that means by arranging opening up of buildings, prevailing winds. So that means in simple words, the constructing the cities in such a way they are more sustainable. And in sustainability, what I mean is maybe the materials what they use. Okay, the materials what they use, and also constructing everything in a spacious environment. So in a spacious environment, and along with this, increasing the surface albedo, impact energy balance of the building. The surface materials with high albedo to solar radiation reduce the amount of energy absorbed. That means constructing buildings in such a way that the material used will reflect heat more. It will reflect a lot of heat. It will not absorb. So that kind of materials have to be used, because these days we are seeing buildings being constructed with a glass or with just simple concrete and all. They absorb a lot of heat. That is the thing. Next, use of white pavement instead of asphalt. Next, providing appropriate landscape by making vertical and horizontal green spaces in different flow, like in the various floors, buildings with multi-use functions and so on. Along with this, increasing green cover. This is also another important thing. Increasing green cover. As I just told, the sustainable constructions using various things, and also the rooftop gardening and terrace farming, like in the terraces, sorry, not terrace farming is on the hills, and the farming on terraces, that's what I meant. Okay, so these things can be done, the kitchen gardening and all, right? Because if you see, even NASA has observed that the higher incidence of heat islands in urban parts of Delhi and all is a great cause of concern. Even NASA have commented on it. The NASA, they have in fact taken these thermal pictures of their cities, right, and they have just commented on it. So that's why, like, even recently it was in the news. So this is about urban heat island, and tomorrow if there is a question, we can write an answer very easily on this urban heat island. Now let's move on to the next question, the third question, which is on the forest fires. So forest fire is something which is a great cause of concern, because we are seeing increase in these forest fires not only in India but across the globe. Across the globe we are seeing this. We have seen the bushfires in Australia. We have seen the forest fire in Amazon, in Brazil. So a forest fire is something which is a great cause of concern, because it will lead to lot of destruction. It will lead to lot of destruction. So the Indian State of Forest Report 2021, it has reported 3.5 lakhs forest fires from November 2020 to June 2021, which is too huge. And forest fires generally, they occur both due to natural as well as man-made causes. Both the reasons are there. So we have to see them. So the first causes, the natural causes. So natural causes, if you see here, they are given: the rising temperature, the dry spells, the low humidity in the soil. All these things are very favorable for the fire to occur. The lightning, volcanic eruption, they also can trigger forest fires, and also the friction between the bamboos, they also trigger forest fires. These are the natural ones. But if you see, more than 90% forest fires, they are not natural, they are man-made. So what are the reasons for that? The first is the shifting cultivation. Shifting cultivation still practiced by certain communities is the first major cause. The fire induced for flush growth of tendu leaves, good growth of grass, fodder. Okay, they are the major reasons. And also the second thing is the negligence, the pure negligence of the people. Because a lot of people just go into the forest maybe for some entertainment and all. So what they will do is they will just light some cigarettes, okay, and they'll leave their butts just like that. Or sometimes they'll just leave the fire that they have used like that. So all these things. And also sometimes there is fire that is lit around the forest to ward off animals, recreation, etc. And the government has taken various steps for the forest fire prevention and management. The National Action Plan on Forest Fire 2018 and setting up of forest fire lines to prevent forest fire in India. So what are the things that can be done, the measures that can be taken? See, because this forest fire topic is both important in geography as well as disaster management, so do check it carefully. The first is fire risk zonation. This is very important. Fire risk zonation and mapping for identifying the area of priority for management and interventions, and allocation of resources to priority, and also collaboration between the state forest department, the disaster management and research entities for preventing fire and rehabilitating fire affected areas. The next is institutionalizing partnership with forest communities and preparing a forest fire forecasting system. This is very important. For this, we can even use the technologies, the satellite technology and all. The National Forest Fire Knowledge Network must be established to cover all dimensions of forest fire in the country. The forest fire management needs to be integral part of the course curriculum of forest department training institutes. Also, the document of good practices have to be sent to all, and also monitoring and providing early warning and vulnerability maps to satellites like the NASA's MODIS has to be usable. And also protecting forests from fires is very important, and we have to use the various even modern techniques, and also the people have to be sensitized with regarding to these kind of things, right? So this is the thing, because in general forest is very important for the survival of humanity at large, and it generally the forest creates in India about 2.5 to 3 billion tons of carbon sink. So that's why it's very important for us, and it will also help in achieving the SDG 15, life on land, sustainable managing forest. So if you can just add these kind of important things, these kind of SDGs and all, so it will give you some extra benefit. It will give you some extra marks, right? So this is about forest fires. Next, the fourth question is on carbon inequality. So carbon inequality, the highly unequal distribution of carbon emissions throughout the world, that is called carbon inequality, and it exists between the countries, within the countries, which is shown in the World Inequality Report of 2022. So this carbon inequality between nations, if you see, small number of developed countries are responsible for highest share of global carbon dioxide emissions. So they have to take huge responsibility because this inequality exists. So what is the need to assess this carbon inequality? What is the need? Why we have to do this? The first is the carbon inequality undermines ability of countries to meet targets set out in the Paris Plan, making it unviable. Because of this, only a lot of countries are objecting this. Because the countries which are using more carbon, they are not taking enough responsibility, especially country like US, we can see. The next is the global carbon budget is rapidly decreasing. So this is not for lifting all the humanity to decent standard of living, but to expand the consumption of minority of world's richest people. That is the huge thing. The carbon budget, that means the carbon which is burnt is being used by the rich countries even today. This is not for uplifting the poor in the poor countries. This is not happening. Only the rich are using more. This is still happening. So that's the huge concern. The next is climate policies. They were disproportionately borne by these low income consumers over the past decade. And India is advocating this transition for the developing countries with time and financial assistance based on historic responsibilities. Now, what are the ways to address this carbon inequality? The first is proper tracking of individual emission within countries with a systematic assessment of beneficiaries and losers of climate. Next, progressive wealth taxes on the polluting activities, especially on the rich countries and all, on the rich people. Scaling up of public investment in low carbon energy production, because without the support of the government, achieving this is next to impossible. The countries that emit more than global average of 5 ton per capita should pay annually into the global carbon incentive fund, and this will balance the national level priorities with the global needs. This is very important, because it's not only about the overall emissions, but the per capita emissions also matters. How much per capita emissions are there? That matters a lot. Okay, because that only will determine how much a country has to pay. Because country like India, if you see, even though we are among the top carbon emitters, but still our per capita emission is very less, because our population is more. And also we are a huge country. The overall emission will be huge, but that doesn't mean people are using more. But this is different in countries like US. They are the top emitter, and their population is also less. So the per capita emission is a lot more. So these are the things. Next, the fifth question is on the coastal vulnerability index. So if you see, India has a large coast, about 7,500 kilometers. So protecting the coast and understanding its vulnerability is something which is very important for us. This coastal vulnerability index is prepared by Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services for the entire Indian coast, and it determines the coastal risks due to future sea level rise based on the physical and geological parameters of Indian coast. It uses various parameters like the tidal range, the wave height, the coastal elevation, the shoreline change rate, the geomorphology, historical rate of the relative sea level change and all. So what this will help is, this will help in better planning, and this will also help in better generation of awareness, because the people can know in what kind of area they are living, especially the coastal people. They will know that the hazards that will be coming on, that will be coming in future, and what is the risk that the area has. All these things can be known by the people. This coastal vulnerability index help in the coastal disaster management and building resilient coastal communities via planning and sustaining high productivity of coastal ecosystem. The sea level along the Indian coast have been rising, leading to loss of land due to coastal erosion, placing the people's livelihood at risk. 26% of Indian population, they live within 100 kilometers from shoreline, and the sea level rise and flooding will definitely affect the major coastal cities. While the existing policies in India address displacement from disasters like monsoon cyclones, but the displacement due to slow onset of disasters like coastal erosion, it has yet to find a place in the policy level, because this is still new and this is upcoming, but this we will see in the future. Already we have seen an island called Parel Island. It has vanished. It has vanished in the western coast of India because of this climate change. And this climate change is a reality and we have to face it. So this kind of index and this kind of planning, this kind of index and this including this in the planning is something which is very, very important. Now, what are the initiatives taken to increase the release against this coastal vulnerability? So first is the Integrated Coastal Management Project under the nodal agency of the Society of Integrated Coastal Management. At national level, it has to establish and support national institutional structure for coordinating coastal zone manufacturing, and at state level, it has to empower state level authorities to adopt this integrated coastal zone management approach consistent with the national strategy. So the management at national level will be done, but at the state level, it has to be in line with national level and local planning has to be done. And also enhancing, the second one is enhancing coastal and ocean resource efficiency and core. In 2020, World Bank approved $400 million to help India to enhance its coastal resources, protect coastal population from pollution and sea level rise, and increase livelihood opportunities for coastal communities. The phase 1 will provide $180 million for ENCORE, and in the phase 1, the ENCORE will cover 8 coastal states of Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, Goa, Karnataka, Kerala, Odisha, Tamil Nadu and West Bengal, and 3 UTs Daman and Diu, Lakshadweep, Puducherry. So remember this ENCORE and Integrated Coastal Zone Management Project. So these are the two things that are important for us. So the Climate Vulnerability Index is released by the Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services, because this can be asked in prelims also, so that's why it is important, right? So these are the questions for the day. And if you want to check the quality of the summaries that we release, do go to our Telegram channel and check it. You can subscribe it as well. Do like the video, share the video and comment and let us know your thoughts. That's it from my side, guys. I'll see you again tomorrow with the next set of questions. Till then, keep studying and stay tuned. Jai Hind.